All right, we're good.
Okay, so let's get started of our June 11th Public Safety Committee. Welcome, Chief. I don't see anybody from the public here, so we will go through our first public comment period, and Office of Emergency Management.
Yes, we submitted our emergency operations plan today. So that goes to the county. The county has an opportunity to review it, and then when they're satisfied, it goes to the state. State will review it, and we'll get sign off.
And it's good
So
for two
hope
years now.
2 years. Yep.
Yeah, it used to be three.
Yep. 2 years. So, I think the action item after we get it approved by the state is to, maybe have a tabletop or, some type of an exercise,
That's right.
not likely full blown like in the in the field, but where we can all sit around and talk over how we would implement the annexes that are in there. And then another piece I think we need to improve is there's a lot of referenced addendas, be they shared service agreements, or some of them are really just like contacts with county or federal partners, who to call at Red Cross and things like that, that we can start to get down on a paper or at least collate so we have them all together. So that'll be maybe a fall project.
Okay. Um, South Essex Fire Department, I'm going to put the agenda up. So just a couple things. We have a new date for the promotional ceremony. It'll be the 28th. I don't have a time yet. I think it's 4. And I'll send out an invite once I'm absolutely sure. And then we're going to have on July 1st, we're supposed to have the new recruits come to the township committee meeting so everyone can be to meet them. And you can see the year-to-date numbers. Again, the building fires in general are pretty low, which is a good thing. Gas leaks with all the construction, they tend to bump up. And then, of course, you know, over 40% is for EMS. And smoke detectors, alarms. We have more uh, unintentional alarms and detection activations than we do fire. So that's always a good thing. Uh, Other than that, we're doing some construction. We will be doing some construction on our facilities, as with South Orange, part of the capital program for both towns. So, any questions about this? All right. And Community Board on Police, I don't think we have anybody. Do we have anybody? Doesn't look like it.
So
Okay. So we'll go into our police department discussion items. And Deborah, you are here, so we'll go right to your item. You have the monthly
Excellent.
question about where are we with our crossing guard counts?
Yeah, I was just curious to know if we did them. And also, I wanted to make sure Chief Sally knew that the school district is going to be doing another safe, hazardous routes report. So that will be upcoming to work with you. They haven't
Yes,
reached.
yeah, I know they're gonna do another hazardous route. Uh, we did counts on a couple corners. One corner was pretty surprising. It was a lot more kids than we thought. South Pearson and Valley Street, where there's a traffic light, and that was one of the corners that we thought we might be able to remove the crossing guard. But um, every day there's approximately 20 children that cross that intersection by themselves. So, even though there's a light and the crossing guard there is a significant amount of children that cross that corner. We also checked Boyden and Elmwood Avenue. So we did like a week check, Monday through Friday. In the morning, Monday through Friday, it was only one child that crossed the street, crossed that intersection. That was 8:30 a.m. And in the afternoon, we had two children crossing the street around 3:40 p.m. Every day. So really, it's only three children that crossed that corner. And the one child that crosses in the morning crosses with an adult. So that was the one corner that we thought was, you know, we did have a lot of people crossing at that intersection. So those are the two we checked so far. I believe we did I didn't receive the report for it yet, but we were doing a check also of Tuscan and Burnett to see how many kids actually kids or parents with children cross that intersection. So that's where we are so far with the those are the intersections we have done so far.
And Chief, with the intersection of Boyden and Elmwood, what does that tell you? Is that likely a place that we would remove that crossing guard?
Yeah, that's likely that we would remove that guard. I would say most likely in the beginning of the school year, we can have an officer monitor it. Again, when the school year changes, we get, different kids in different grades crossing and everything else. So we can go back to it and just see if it still stays that low number of children crossing, and then possibly eliminating that corner as a for crossing guards.
If we were to eliminate, we'll have a other option to tell families that are using it.
Yes, and we'll look at the school's hazardous routes as well. Maybe we can place them into a place that's, the crossing guard be utilized a lot more.
And then how was the process of counting? Was it like a hard thing to do? Did you do
No,
these
not at
board-
all. No, we were able to, break it down with if the kid was walking by himself, walking with an adult. And we had times of the times these kids were crossing also as well. So it might be 5 kids on South Pearson crossing at 8:30 in the morning. And there's another 4 crossing at, a later time. So we have that all broken down. And it wasn't a heavy lift doing that.
And do you think it's helpful to have this information as we think about where to place crossing guards?
Definitely, because it shifts. So this year it might be different. This school year coming up, so help us put these guards at better locations, and also we have the extra guards that we have hired. So we have we have all the corners covered, but then we also hire extra 3 to cover when a guard is out. So that helps us out a lot. And since we're on the topic of crossing guards, we had crossing guard Jolene Corey. She passed away on June 2nd. She was Harvard and Osborne. She was a crossing guard since 2009, and she's also a Maywood resident. So condolences to the family. So we're missing that strong guard there in front of Tuscan School.
She was a lovely person.
Yes.
Her, like everyone was very sick.
Malia?
Thank you. Since it is the end of the school year, I wanted to ask if we can redo the counts, like if we could do, I guess what I'd like to see this as an annual thing where when the school year starts, we do, for the first, month, we do an evaluation of where are our guards, do some counts, are they all at the best places, and then just as an annual thing for our, September, October meetings, we have that report and we see, okay, do we have guards where they need to be? So I just wanted to see, Miss Engel asked how difficult the count was and, if that's something like what your thoughts are on, doing that annually so that we can make sure that we're in the best possible position for the school year for all of the kids going to the school.
Definitely. Yep. Yeah, it wasn't, we Mr. Ware brought the suggestion of doing 3 intersections at a time, and that's what we did here. And it wasn't wasn't a heavy pull for us to do that. So yes, we can do that at the beginning of the school year.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
And I think prior to the beginning of the school year, we'll also have an opportunity to look at hopefully the routes that kids are more likely to walk based on new assignments. The school at the end, well, I guess 2 months ago, maybe got us a first batch of like a database with addresses and school assignments. And that it took a little while, I think, to get that set up for us to receive it. But then hopefully going into next year, we receive it a little more frequently, earlier, prior to the start of the school year. We can take a look at that to understand likely walking routes.
That's great.
That
I
was
feel
gonna
like
be my
it's not so late.
They sent you the middle school one. That's the one you're referring to. And then the kindergarten placements went out last week. So have they sent you the information about the kindergarten yet?
No, which is okay. I
you-
mean, I would expect that when we send this over to engineers, we're going to do it all at once. And so we'll, wait to get as much information as we can get in, hopefully all of it, before we send it to the engineers to look at.
You might want to ask for it because they were pretty quick in getting you the middle school after
Yep.
placements, and kindergarten went out before Memorial Day weekend, I think, or around then. So,
Yep.
and then I think they're also looking at changing some of their bus routes. So that's just something to keep in mind as well, to figure out to learn more about the bus routes that they're going to be using. Just it's good data to have as we talk about traffic flow and everything. Might be more of an engineering thing, but might as well talk to them about that too.
Okay, anything more on this?
For doing them, I'm happy that we finally started the counts that we've been talking about for a really long time, and that it was easy to do. And I agree with Ms. Herman that we should be doing this on an annual basis so that we have data and information about thinking about our placements versus just doing what we've done year over year over year.
And Deborah, the bias crimes.
Yeah, I was asking about this. So, Mr. DeLuca and I spoke. I was asking him some questions about reporting acts of anti-Semitism because there is a rise in anti-Semitism around the country, but also I think here in Soma, there was an incident last week, and there was an incident again today that I've asked them to please call the non-emergency line to report. And I was just wondering how we're tracking data, if we're tracking data, if we're seeing an uprise in anti-Semitism here in our community, and I wanted to have a conversation around that, how it all works.
Okay, well, we definitely track data. I don't have the data in front of me of how many bias crimes we have. So, I received the flyer you sent out and, definitely call the local police department. Even if you call the prosecutor's office, they're going to call us anyway. We'll initiate the investigation. We will retrieve the evidence if there is evidence, take photographs. Usually things like graffiti or things written on a wall, we will take the photographs and take them down immediately. But if it's like paper or something to that effect, we can bring it in and we send it to the prosecutor's office, and they can possibly see if they can get anything off that, any evidence off that paper or any material that we receive. And our protocol is we start the investigation. We gather the evidence. If the person wishes to speak to us, we'll speak to them. We notify the Essex County Prosecutor's Office, and they have their bias unit, and they will assist us in the investigation. And that's the process. So
Chief,
we
Chief, so how does someone have to prove that they feel that there was a bias crime, or is it just, if they feel that they've been
right.
treated differently because of their race, religion, sexual orientation?
It's not up to them to I mean, they can interpret it, but they send it to us. We'll make the determination if it is a bias crime.
Okay.
So if you feel that something's happening to you, definitely call us. We receive all the information that person would provide us, or we find. We send it to the prosecutor's office, and they make a determination if it is a bias crime.
And
How is that determination made?
Well, that's their process. I can't really speak on their process of how they determine that, but they'll, usually they'll see if it's a direct threat to a person, or if it's, general to a race of people. And they will also use, it will go to the state police also, intel unit, to see if anybody or any other organizations are receiving the same thing. And they will, make a determination.
They being the prosecutor's office
Yes,
or who?
yes.
The
The prosecutor's
PD
office.
doesn't,
No.
PD doesn't decide. Was it the
No,
highest
we do
crime?
not decide. Nope, we
You
take
just
all the information, we send it to them, they do the investigation, and they give us the final, if it is or not.
And do they
They're,
get like
they're,
training?
yes, they're the
Anti-Semitism?
experts. That's why it's a bias unit. It's a unit. So they are trained and they have lawyers and investigators that make that determination.
So you're kind of like the go-between. Someone calls and said, I had a bring them home sign and my mailbox was stickered with something, and I feel like that was an act of anti-Semitism. So that you report that to the prosecutor's office and they
Essex
do
County
their
Prosecutor's Office, yes.
decide if they
But you
if it is
do more than that, right? You say you investigate, right?
Yeah, we assist in investigation. So we'll take the initial investigation. Part of the investigation is gathering all this information. We'll gather all this information. We'll write a narrative, or if the person wants to be interviewed and they tell us their thoughts of how they feel about it, we document that, and we take all that information, we send it to the prosecutor's office, bias unit, and they make the determination.
And what about, do you look at, suppose this happened in front of someone's house? Do you look at cameras, door cameras and stuff like that?
Everything, cameras, video, if there's any evidence on scene, all the factors we would bring in, and we present it or send it to the Essex County Prosecutor's Office.
So you and I, Chief, we were in the village, well, I guess last year when some of the Soma for Palestine groups were marching, and people were saying to us, Free Palestine, they're yelling at us, Free Palestine, and I feel attacked or I feel threatened. So I'm just curious about how we're respecting that person's feeling. I know you and I were having conversations with people, and we were trying to respect their feeling, but also saying, we understand that, but there's someone can say what they say, but if they direct it to someone, how do we validate or at least respect what someone feels?
Yeah, so all that that you're saying, we take that information, we document it, and again, everything is run through the Essex County Prosecutor's Office. Every scenario that we're talking about, we ask the prosecutor, the assistant prosecutor who is in charge of that, and ask them, is this something, and most of the time they say it's freedom of speech, unless it's directly at, a direct threat at a specific person.
Mhm.
So we don't make that determination. We run it through the prosecutor's office, and they give us guidance on that.
And how do we close the loop with someone who comes to us? After a determination is made, who contacts them, or do we contact them?
Yeah, so we will contact the victim after a follow-up.
Okay.
Yes, if a victim is identified. A lot of times people will call anonymous, but if the victim is a possible victim is identified, then we will inform them.
Malia?
Thank you. So I just wanted to ask, since you do track the data, and I understand you don't have it here, if that's something you can share with us, either internally or at our next meeting. I know that according to the Anti-Defamation League, the anti-Semitism acts have gone up like 300 or more percent, like very dramatically. So I would be shocked that wasn't the case here. And I mean, this is what we're hearing. So if we have the data, I'd like to see that. And also, I was wondering if you reported to the FBI, because I know that they do their annual statistics, and I want to make sure that our data is being included in that.
Yes, so if it's identified as a bias incident,
Right.
so it might
Right.
it
It's
might not be
investigated and yeah.
right, but it might not rise to that. But if it is, yes,
And
yes,
then finally, I did want to ask if we have one of and I can send you this guide on municipalities and what they can do to improve safety and security for Jewish communities and combat anti-Semitism. But one of the things is to designate a like an official, like a member of the police department to be a liaison to the Jewish community for either the Jewish community when they have a concern or members of the public when they have something like this happen. But I think it's something that maybe we could, consider having
yeah,
a designated liaison.
yes. How we done in the past is been our sergeant in our youth aid bureau, and if they would reach out and they want us to do like a security check, we would send him out, and he will respond. But we can make it more formal of a liaison. But we have contacts with the synagogues and the rabbis in town, and
Sure.
right.
Yeah. I'll share internally what I'm referring to, but
Okay.
yeah, I think that would be really helpful.
I agree that it would be great to see if we can see the data next month, and maybe it can be part of the reports that we get moving forward. It doesn't have to be just anti-Semitism, but bias crime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Mhm.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, without me even looking at it, some of these might not be the level of a bias crime. It might be coded as a suspicious condition. So we'll gather those as well. It might be coded differently. So
Yeah, I understand because it might not have been
Yep.
determined. That
right.
would be great. And then I guess I also, after October 7th or sometime, we had talked about anti-Semitism training for our PD, and I don't know if we ever did anything.
Well, I know we've had it in the past, but I would have to look in to see the last time we had it or if we where we're at with that. Not sure at this point.
I believe the Attorney General's office has training, so perhaps it's something.
If it's mandated by the Attorney General, we most likely had it already, but I'll check to see when was the last time we had it. You know, so
Thank you.
yeah.
And that flyer that this thing that I put up here is it's just the words of the flyer. But there's a better looking thing than this. But should we put this out there, let people know how to report, what should happen, blah blah blah? Should we put
Yes,
this in our communications?
yes, definitely, because again, some bias instances we get them 2-3 days later, or a couple days after, and a lot of times the public assumes that we might know already of an incident, but we don't. The police, so it's good to have this information out there to notify us as soon as possible so we can investigate.
So Patrick, I'll send it to you, or do you have it, Deborah?
I have it on.
Yeah,
I've been.
you can share it with Patrick and Cindy, and we can make sure it gets on the website, and we can put some information in the newsletter.
And I think what Chief Sally just said is really important to note, that call and report it when it happens. Don't worry about finding your own videotape or finding more information or investigating it yourself. It's better to just call, right?
Right.
That's what you just. I think that is what people are doing. Like last week, I know they're like, we're going to check our videotape. We're going to see if we can get more information to see. And I'm like, no, just call.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else on this?
Not for me.
Deborah, you good?
Thank you so much.
All right. Parker Avenue bike lanes. Chief, we're still exploring whether or not we're going to be establishing them on Parker Ave. If we do, one of the things that we will be doing is giving folks who live on Parker the opportunity to get to register their car so that they can park on the side streets. And many of these side streets have time limitations because of school or whatever, mostly because of school. So I know we have resident parking around. We have some, like on Villa Terrace and Raymond Terrace, we have resident only. So once they register their car and the license plate goes to the police, I mean, what's the process on your end? How does it get checked, and how do you make sure you're not giving a ticket to somebody who has a legitimate right to park there?
Yeah, so like Villa Terrace, that's usually checked by parking enforcement officers
Okay.
during the day. So they usually don't run into a problem with that because they know what permit they're looking for and the times and everything. So I would say that would probably go to the parking enforcement officers during the day. It depends, but I'm not sure what times, is it at
Well,
night
this could
or?
be, let's say around Clinton School, some of those side streets by Clinton, there's no parking, say from 9 to 2. But this would allow somebody who's got a Parker Ave
Yeah.
pass to be able to park there at some period between 9 and 2.
Yeah, so it'll be checked by the permit. So the permit's on there, then they're okay. If
Okay, well, they don't have permits
So-
anymore. It's all license plates now.
right,
So-
right.
On that end, it's a digital process for obtaining the permit, right? It's not a physical permit, but then
Right.
it becomes a physical process for checking currently. So we have hard lists that our park enforcement officers work off of. This is true for all of our areas. And so
You have a guest, Patrick?
yeah, he's pretending to be a chicken. So they all do it manually. We're looking to go to a digital system where we have license plate readers on our park enforcement vehicles. It's an expensive endeavor, but worthwhile because especially as we look to expand, these types of uses, it makes it a lot easier for enforcement. But that said, we still have a good system for this enforcement.
Okay. And suppose, Chief, so the way this will work is if let's say the main stretch of Parker between Prospect and Boyden, there'll be dedicated bike lanes. You're not supposed to park in there. But suppose you're having somebody come over, and your driveway, you got, too many people in your driveway. They need, they need to have spillover onto the street, maybe for a party or something, or a wake, or a shiva or something, whatever. Would they be able to call the police and give license plates and say, hey, look, we need to be able to park on Coolidge, in the afternoon, blah, blah, blah?
Yeah, I was but we're saying definitely not on Parker, right? They can't park on
Right,
Parker
they
with
can't
these,
park on Parker.
right. So it would have to be on the side street. We do the same
Yeah.
thing with overnight parking. It'll be the same thing with overnight parking, to ask for permission for a
Right.
night,
Right.
and we can be able to grant them just like we do overnight
Okay.
parking.
All right.
Yeah.
So we would have to do some training with dispatch and all that so they know
Right,
what's going
right.
on, because this is going to be brand new if it happens.
Mm.
The same thing overnight. So suppose you have people come home and people are here, to visit or something, and you need them to park around the corner overnight. That the same thing. They would be able to call the police. They wouldn't be able to park on Parker. They'd have to park around the corner.
Right, right. Give their license plate, their the vehicle information, and where they're parked at.
All
Right.
right. Does anybody have questions about that part of Parker and the parking? Okay. I want to talk a little bit about some other scenarios that have come up in our meetings. So, we have these dedicated bike lanes, but, Willie Fuel comes and only has so many feet of hose and has to park in front of the house to load up oil. Or UPS, DoorDash delivering something. food or something, or FedEx or something like that. We have said to folks, and our traffic engineer people have said to us that these incidental parking situations are fine. They're not there for a long period of time, in and out, blah, 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 a mail truck or something like that. Do you see it the same way?
Hmm. I mean, I know it's temporary, but I mean, they do cause a hazard. I mean, but I know it's part of life now with these type of deliveries. Um,
I mean, you're not, the problem is if you're parking around the street or so, well, like Willie Fuel, I mean, it would be impossible if you're in the middle of the block. You're
True.
not going to run hose for hundreds
Right,
of
right,
feet.
right, right, right. Yeah, I mean, they do what they have to do. Um, I mean, it wouldn't be like enforcement from us. It's just, a temporary
Yeah,
thing,
no, I mean, it wouldn't be any pass or anything like that. It's just
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
we have to
yeah.
just understand that if this happens and someone's coming down with a bike, they're going to have to go around
Right,
these
right.
folks.
Yeah. Yeah, that happens on every
See,
street anyway, but
say that again?
happens on every street anyway,
Right.
you know, throughout
And then
town.
the
Yeah.
other the other sort of a little more delicate question is, a little more difficult question rather, is the landscaper. Um, the landscapers are usually there 20 minutes or so. Um, Sometimes they can park around the corner, sometimes they can't. What do you think about that?
I think they have to park around the corner. Most of them do. When you tell them, like, if we're working a side job and they have to do landscaping, they'll accommodate. They'll move down the street or around the corner and get their things and take them off and drive them down. And I think that's too much time sitting there.
Okay. And same thing with the construction vehicle. Um, they would have to park in the driveway. This would be an
Yeah,
instance where maybe the residents would have to move their cars to the side streets, and these
right.
folks would have to park in the driveway.
Yeah, because they're there too long a lot of
Yeah.
times. Yeah,
Now there are going to be some difficult things, like if you're getting your driveway paved. Um, you might be able to park some of the trucks around the corner, but maybe some of it has to be out there because just the nature of the situation. Would that be
right.
best if those things occur, would that be better to take them one-offs and just call and
Yeah,
report that to the police, and
yeah,
then you could figure out how to deal with that?
right. That and tree trimming
Tree,
or
yeah, like if you're removing a
yeah,
tree or something like that. Yeah.
right. Yeah,
Okay.
I think
So,
what we need, I was just gonna say, I think what we need to do, we have a list of registered landscapers. So we need, and the reason we register them is so we can communicate with them. So if this does pass, I think we need to communicate to them about where to park um, in areas where there's no parking on the street instead of just parking right in front like they often do. And the same with contractors. When they get a permit, they can get notified about where they can park for that specific address.
okay.
Well, where do the landscapers park for all the houses on Valley? Because there's no from Valley, from Crescent to Town Hall, there's no parking there. They have to park
Yeah,
around the
they,
corner. So
right,
this isn't
exactly.
anything new.
It isn't new, but it's new for Parker.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And then suppose just thinking this stuff out. And this is actually more than the chief, but everybody. Suppose we wanted to say, there are certain times of the year that we're just going to close the bike lane. Like, for example, Thanksgiving.
Mm.
We just say bike lane is closed because, people get folks to come to their house, Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever they're doing. And that kind of coincides with probably a time when there's less bike traffic anyway, because it's colder.
Right.
I just think that there might be times when we officially close a bike lane that we could send a nixle out and says, you know, the Parker Avenue bike lanes are closed due to Christmas celebration or something, the Christmas holiday.
I think the better like parking allowed during the holiday.
Say that
I
again?
think better language is parking allowed during Thanksgiving holiday.
Yeah.
Yeah, that works. And then also, I mean, we don't do this for cars when cars have to drive around something that's in their lane or partially in the lane. So I think just the natural behavior of drivers or bicyclists is to go around an obstruction in front of them. But I
Yeah.
like the idea of, you know, saying parking is allowed over this holiday or whatever, and that warns the bicyclists that there'll be more. But I don't think it's feasible to close down the bike lanes necessarily.
I think if there's no parking, people can still use the bike lanes, to the mayor's
Correct.
point.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I
Just
feel
to
like when
notice,
people
just to
ha-
notice that it would be parking would be allowed in the bike lanes if we decide to do something like that.
Yeah,
think we
I feel like on holidays when people are off is when they might be more likely to use the lanes, you know, especially when we have like an unseasonably warm day. People like to recreate after the Thanksgiving meal, you know, that sort of thing.
Not me, I like to sleep.
But I think we can also think about just a schedule, like what that calendar looks like, you know, parking allowed
Right.
on these days.
Mhm.
We also want to consider big school events that happen at the high school,
Yeah,
like
that was
night
feedback that we definitely got.
is a
Like
thought.
back to school night, the school plays.
Well, they wouldn't be able to park on Parker anyway because we would have bollards there.
Right. But
They'd be able to park at Parker beyond the bollards, like at
we
Prospect
should
or
like
whatnot. I'm just thinking of, I know that issue came up about people who
Yeah.
are on four bike lanes, but how am I going to ever get to the high school? So that's why I
Right.
was just
Well,
mentioning.
that could be one of the conversations we have when we meet with the principal and
yeah.
students.
In addition to, you know, maybe having some more handicap spots for people that were telling us that they were parking on Parker because that was the only way they could access the school. And you can't just park where you're not supposed to park because there's no other place. You know, they have to be accommodated somehow.
Well, that would work in the drop-offs for the high school,
Mm-hmm.
right? We
Yeah,
could even
exactly.
designate a handicap spot for
Exactly.
drop-off, right?
And just to bring up, it would be okay for the senior bus to pick somebody up on Parker. I'm assuming that
Yes.
would be okay.
Yes. Yes. I think we're going to try to move the jitneys off Parker just to make it, you know, but certainly a senior bus, a cab, a Uber, you know, that's just life. You can't not allow that stuff to happen
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because
Pickup
if we have too many restrictions like that, then people aren't going to be able to get those services.
Mhm.
I feel like it's like pickups and deliveries allowed. It's just if you're going to be there longer that you can't park there.
Right. Okay. Chief, and so as we move forward, Chief, we're going to keep coming back to you and checking things out with you.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah,
Our
I think that's-
decision day is July 15th. We're going to decide whether to proceed or not proceed on this.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think like like we were saying, the things that are there for extended period of time needs to go to the side of the street, like the landscapers and you know, and like the UPS can stop and make the delivery and then keep going.
Right. Or and, you know, we talked about a paver or something like that, or a tree, you know, they're removing a big tree,
Right.
put a crane out there.
Right.
That
It
would
usually
all be
calls
done
for that.
through, you know, working that out with the police.
Those
Yeah, it
kind of
usually
things
calls
like
for that.
you have to do that now anyway. You have to get
Yeah, it usually calls for that.
Yeah.
that's plans, you know, and those
Yeah.
are bigger
Okay.
projects.
All right. I'm going to move to looking at our charts. I think you like this part of the meeting, Chief.
It's looking good.
Yeah, yeah.
You
So,
didn't used to like it.
you want to go
didn't
through
really
any of
like
this,
it.
Chief?
Well, the robberies are up. So I'll talk about the robberies. So we've had 4 robberies since this is January to April, but 3 of them were cleared by arrest. So we have arrests in 3 of them. One was a 66 gas station robbery cleared by arrest. Another one was a domestic violence robbery cleared by an arrest. And another one was a robbery at we had 2 at Columbia High School. This one was cleared by an arrest. The other one that's not on this chart is the one that we had at West Parker in the West Parker lot where a student was pushed down, took the backpack and laptop, and 3 individuals with mask on took off. They also we recovered that vehicle shortly after, but that vehicle with those same actors were involved in other robberies in other towns. That's still under investigation. We have evidence that we collected. It's out. We're waiting for returns. So we're still in the process of investigating that one. So those are the robberies. We had, as you see there, we have 1 aggravated assault. That aggravated assault was the shooting on Elmwood Avenue, which we made an arrest, and he was charged with multiple offenses, one being aggravated assault, which is what you see on that chart. Burglaries, we've had 5 burglaries this year. One burglary was to a medical building on Milburn Avenue. We made an arrest on that. We had 1 burglary on Oakland Road. Through an investigation and gathering evidence, we made an arrest. We had 1 burglary on South Crescent. 1 juvenile was arrested for that one. And that's 3 out of the 5. The other 2 were attempts. One was on Quarter Avenue. They attempted the windows but did not gain entry. The other one was Claremont. They attempted the window. Officers got there pretty fast. They jumped in the car and they took off in a high rate of speed, with officers observing them leave the area, but were unable to apprehend them. So we were right there before, at that time. The alarm went off in the home too as well, which was, a home alarm helped us out. So those are the 5 burglaries. We have 3 clear and 2 that are still outstanding. Auto thefts. We have 6 reported vehicles stolen this month, just this month alone. All 6 of them, the doors were not locked. And for the majority of them, the vehicles were running with the keys in them. But even with the 6, we made 4 arrests. So we made 4 arrests out of the 6 of those stolen vehicles. So that's pretty much the crime in what we have this year so far. But these guys are making good arrests. They're making do a lot of things preventing things from happening, by being proactive and being out there. And so guys are doing a good job with that.
So
Patrol and detectives.
For the first third of the year, we're down 20% in these crimes.
Yeah. Yeah, even the thefts.
Right.
We made some shoplifting arrests as well.
Okay. Anybody have any questions on this part?
What can we do to encourage people to lock their doors and take their keys?
Nothing.
Cars?
I feel like we keep banging
It
our head
happens
against
everywhere.
the wall on this.
Yep. That's just not gonna go down unless people do that. It's,
Yeah,
It is.
we've been making
just-
public service announcements
I've
for
seen
a long
them.
time.
yeah. And everywhere, every town, same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's
So-
actually, as it gets warmer, it gets worse because people want to leave the air conditioning going on, so they leave their car running.
Yeah.
That's not
And
good
in the
either.
wintertime, they leave the heat on, so they leave their car running.
Right. Yeah.
I think that, it's a sad, but the best way to learn is to have it happen.
Have it taken. Yes.
I know. All right. Now we're going to go into motor vehicle traffic.
Okay. Motor vehicles looking good. Numbers have gone up. These guys have been making good quality stops. using their discretion on summonses and warnings. And also, I mean, like quality stops where they're, sometimes making arrests out of stops, for warrants or what have you. So, the supervisors and the patrolmen get a lot of credit for increasing this. But also I think what helped is decreasing our actual traffic details and just letting the officers in the areas look for violations.
So that shows up here where you've
Yep.
reduced the traffic details.
Right.
Vehicle stops in the last month really shot up 629.
Yeah. Yeah. So, they're out there seeing these violations and making these stops.
I got to see a good one today. Car cut me off or cut in front of me, rolled through a stop sign at Prospect and Harvard.
Oh, I
And,
saw that. There were two cop
man,
cars.
they came right out. They got him good. It
Yeah.
was great. I mean, we see
Did
these
you make a
numbers here.
citizen's arrest?
You think I should have stopped and backed them up? We see these numbers here, but I'll tell you, it was different seeing it because I was the one that they kind of, I mean, it wasn't like so egregious, but I mean, clearly rolled through the stop and cut me off. And it felt great to see that out there, because you saw someone that right there was not doing the right thing. And, not just did the police officer make the stop, but they had positioned themselves to observe that intersection specifically. I had passed them as I rolled up to the stop sign, and they were ready for someone to roll through, and they got them. So it was great to see. And I sent an email to the chief and the officer, giving them my thanks, because it was really neat to see.
Neat.
Yeah.
I wanted to say good job for all of these numbers going up too. I love seeing
Yeah.
the green.
Yeah,
That's
we'll
all.
mention it at the next township committee meeting
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
I think people want to see that we are enforcing
Mhm.
traffic. We talk about it during the interviews. We talk about it with you, Chief. These are nicer meetings when these numbers come out. So what you're doing is good, and just keep going. Then we can talk about basketball instead of the traffic stuff.
It's
The game's
8:30.
on,
It starts.
the game's
at
on
8:30.
tonight, so we got to go.
Yeah, we got to hurry up.
11 minutes.
All right. Anybody have any other questions about the traffic stuff or any of that? If not, anybody have any new items?
I just wanted to ask real quickly, are some of these traffic stops in the areas of our schools, like the high school?
Oh, yeah.
We talked
Yes.
about enforcement there.
Yes. Yes.
Great.
Specifically, told the traffic bureau about the high school.
Mhm.
And yeah, in all the schools and the areas that we've been talking about for months. So
I have to tell you, when
Yeah.
I was doing my observation at Columbia for that 40 minutes last week, I was surprised how many patrol cars went by on Parker,
Yeah.
on Kensington. They were just different police officers driving by, observing what's going on.
They know you were there?
No, no one knew I was there. I just showed up.
they saw you though. They saw you. They told me they saw you.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. If they see me, that's fine.
Right.
Oh, I got eyes on them. Okay. Any new business? Chief?
Yeah, I think that's it. But we've I know there's a protest going on. I know there's some organized protests supposed to be going on throughout the state on Saturday. I didn't see anything for Maplewood, so we're just keeping our
Yeah, it's
eyes on it.
so
I think
that's
there's
the-
one in South Orange.
that's the
right?
No Kings. So there's one in South Orange at Floods Hill. The Maplewood folks have joined up with Montclair to go up there to Brookdale Park. But there is, Chief, there is the service, the service at St. Joe's Sunday,
Okay.
and
Oh, for Pride.
for Pride, and that generally there's a group of folks that
Yes.
gather across the street.
Yeah, I went
Right.
through there last year.
Okay, so just to have that on your radar, maybe somebody can
Okay.
reach out to Father Jim.
Gotcha. Yeah, and we checked and we didn't. There's no any credible threat or anything concerns from public safety as far as in New Jersey. So
Okay. I do have one item of new business that came out of Engineering Public Works. We expanded the overnight parking in our public lots to include Indiana, DeHart, Maple Crest, and Yale. I think Yale too. Anyway, signs are still going up. We should have all those signs next week, and then the clerk's office is going to be notified that we're ready to implement this. So I just want to alert you. So this would be by permit, people would be able to park from 2 to 6 overnight in these lots. Again, it would be by license plate. But I did notice the other day that in the Prospect lot, there were a lot of cars parked there at 6 o'clock in the morning. So,
Okay.
this would be
Prospect lot.
hospital, yeah.
yeah,
Where's the prospect lot?
on the corner of Hilton. Prospect.
Ah, got
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Okay,
So,
I see. St. Joe.
anyway, when this goes, we're really going to need good enforcement because people are going to see cars parked there and they're going to park there.
Mhm.
And we've
Gotcha.
got to make sure, not to ticket those that have the permits and ticket those that don't have the
Don't.
permits.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Gotcha.
So I'll make sure that the clerk's office is coordinating all that with you.
Mhm.
Okay. We have one attendee. I don't know if Carmen Morales wants to speak, but if you do, this would be an opportunity now to speak and you would have 3 minutes. Yep. You want to move her over, Patrick?
You, Mr. DeLuca and company. I do have a question for Chief Sally. The first few years that I moved here, I'm a Parker Avenue resident. There were a lot of stops of speeders that were going down Parker Avenue from Boyden to Valley.
Mhm.
And myself and other residents on this block, which is one block up from Columbia High School, have not seen that enforcement in a while. Sorry, I have my rollers on. Have not seen that enforcement recently or really within the past year or so. And we were wondering, will that continue? Because I think in light of the fact that we have, there's a possibility of bike lanes on Parker, I think that would certainly ticketing people who are speeding down that street, our street, would certainly help. So I'm wondering what kind of enforcement does the police department plan or has done in the past to stop these speeders?
Yeah, so we have been doing enforcement on Parker Avenue, speeding and throughout town. As you see our stats, our speeder tickets have gone up significantly. But I will check the stats and see how many are actually being done on Parker Avenue, and we'll do a more we'll focus more on Parker Avenue and make sure that we do more enforcement on Parker Avenue. Just got to check the stats, but we'll do a targeted patrol over there.
Wonderful.
That's
That
fine.
would be great. Thank you so much.
Carmen, you still have 1 minute and 55 seconds. Do you want to
I know, no, you should have
Or do you
given
want to
that
reserve
me.
it for the future?
Sir, you should have given that to me this morning.
I did. I gave you 3 minutes this morning after telling you only 1.5 minutes. So, all right, I'm going to put it in the bank.
Okay. All right.
You
Thank
can
you.
reserve it like a senator. Thank you. Okay, Chief, is there any need to go into closed?
Yeah, just a couple minutes I need.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Pat, take us
So,
out of YouTube.
Malia and Deb and I, we need to vote to go into close. So are you in
I
favor of going
motion
into
that we
close?
go into closed.
Second,
Second.
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Patrick, you're going to, Move us.